The man with no reservation. The hotel lobby buzzed with quiet voices, the soft hum of air conditioning, and the clinking of polished shoes across shiny marble floors. A tall man stood by the front desk, dressed in a plain gray hoodie and worn-out jeans. His face was tired but kind. He carried only a small bag slung over one shoulder. Behind the desk, the hotel manager adjusted his tie, annoyed by the man's presence. "Sir," the manager said sharply, "as I mentioned, we are fully booked. You can't just walk into a five-star hotel without a reservation." The tall man smiled politely. "I understand. I was hoping maybe there was a cancellation or something." The manager leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Sir, this hotel caters to VIP guests, celebrities, diplomats, heads of companies, not drifters." The words stung more than the manager knew. The man looked down at his shoes, scratched one behind his heel, and nodded. "I see. I'm sorry to trouble you." The bellhop nearby, a young guy named Miguel, had been watching the whole exchange. Something about the man seemed familiar. Not just familiar, iconic. The way he stood, the way he smiled. Miguel squinted. "Wait," Miguel muttered under his breath. "Is that? No way." But before he could say anything, the manager waved a hand at the tall man. "Please leave. We have standards." The man nodded again, took one slow breath, and turned toward the revolving doors. But as he walked away, Miguel rushed behind the desk and whispered into the manager's ear, "That guy, that's Keanu Reeves." The manager's eyebrows rose. He looked again, squinting at the man's back as he pushed through the glass doors into the cold evening air. "What?" the manager scoffed. "Keanu Reeves, please." Keanu Reeves wouldn't wear jeans like that. But now there was a quiet ripple through the staff. The security guard at the door, the concierge, even the cleaning lady with the mop, they all paused. Some of them pulled out their phones. Someone whispered, "I think it's him." Outside, Keanu stood on the sidewalk and looked up at the hotel's glowing name. He didn't blame anyone. It wasn't the first time he had been judged by how he looked. And sadly, it probably wouldn't be the last. He stepped away from the entrance and walked down the street. What the manager didn't know was that Keanu had spent the day at a children's hospital just 2 cities over. He had driven his old bike all the way, visiting kids fighting cancer, telling stories, making them laugh. He had stayed so long that by the time he reached the hotel, the reservation he once had was lost in a system glitch. Back inside, the manager's phone buzzed. It was a call from someone in the VIP booking department. "Hey, A-list guest coming tonight. Name's under a personal file. His team called earlier this week. Did he check in yet?" The manager stiffened. Who?" the voice answered. "Keanu Reeves." A long silence. "Sir?" the voice repeated. "Did you hear me?" The manager's throat tightened. "I think I may have sent him away." "You what?" Outside, Keanu walked a few more blocks, passing smaller hotels, a diner, and a bus stop. He stopped in front of a tiny motel with flickering lights and a rusted sign. It wasn't much, but it would be enough for one night. He stepped inside, greeted by a kind old woman at the desk who offered him a warm smile without asking questions. "You look tired, love," she said. "Room 7 is clean and quiet, $50. But for you, let's make it 30. Keanu smiled. "Thank you. You're very kind." Meanwhile, the hotel manager was in a panic. He ran through the lobby, barking at staff, checking cameras. The concierge confirmed what they all feared. Yes, the man had been Keanu Reeves. The same Keanu who once donated millions anonymously. The same Keanu who refused to use bodyguards. The same one who treated everyone like a friend. "This is bad," the manager muttered. "Really bad." He tried to call the VIP department. "Get him back," he demanded. Offer him the penthouse suite. Offer him anything. But Keanu wasn't answering his phone. He was sipping tea in a quiet motel room, staring out the window at the city lights. He didn't need chandeliers or room service. Peace was enough. The next morning, news had already begun to spread. Someone had snapped a picture of Keanu walking out of the five-star hotel looking disappointed. The caption read, "Keanu Reeves rejected by luxury hotel. Guess kindness doesn't wear designer suits." By noon, social media exploded. Comments poured in, "How dare they? He's the most humble man in Hollywood." This is why people lose faith in humanity. At the same time, the old woman at the motel was overwhelmed. Fans came by asking, "Is Keanu really here?" But she just smiled and said, "He's resting, let the man be." The hotel manager, however, faced a storm. Guests canceled bookings. Influencers posted videos mocking him. Staff whispered behind his back. And then, something even worse happened. A reporter from a major news channel showed up, camera in hand. "We're doing a story," she said, "on judgment and humility. And you, sir, are the face of this week's lesson." His mouth went dry. "Please, I made a mistake." The reporter didn't blink. So did a lot of people. The difference is yours went viral. But while the world burned with opinions, Keanu wasn't angry. He was having lunch with the motel owner in the tiny kitchen behind the check-in desk. He had helped her carry groceries in the morning and even fix the squeaky front door. "People forget," he said softly, "that real value isn't in how someone looks. It's in how they make you feel." She nodded, wiping her hands on her apron. "I knew you were someone special the moment you smiled." And in that quiet little space, far from all the flashing cameras and internet outrage, something truly special happened. A bond formed, not because of fame, not because of money, but because of simple human kindness. By the end of the day, the hotel tried again. A sleek black car pulled up outside the motel. Two men in suits stepped out and asked for Keanu. "He's resting," the old woman said again. "We're from the Grand Reserve Hotel," one of them explained. "We're here to escort him to our VIP suite." But before she could respond, Keanu stepped out from behind her, wiping his hands with a towel. "Thanks," he said calmly, "but I already found a place where I feel welcome." The two men exchanged nervous glances. "Sir, it's the penthouse. The manager personally." "Tell him no hard feelings," Keanu interrupted. "We all make mistakes, but some lessons can't be bought." And with that, he stepped back inside the motel, smiling gently. Outside, the sun began to set. The morning after everything changed, the sun peeked over the city skyline, painting soft gold over buildings that never slept. The Grand Reserve Hotel stood tall and proud, but behind its polished windows, chaos brewed like a storm. The manager hadn't slept. His tie was crooked, his eyes were red, and his phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Reporters wanted statements. Influencers had tagged the hotel in angry videos. The hashtag Keanu rejected was trending worldwide. A staff meeting was called at 7 a.m. The entire team gathered in the main conference room. Waiters, cleaners, bellhops, receptionists, everyone had heard. Most were still in shock. The manager stood at the front, tapping a whiteboard nervously. "Listen, we need to fix this. We need to issue a public apology. Something heartfelt." Miguel, the bellhop who had recognized Keanu, raised his hand. "Or maybe," he said carefully, "we could actually mean it, like, not just fix the press. Fix ourselves." The room fell silent. Even the manager blinked. Those words, simple as they were, hit hard. Meanwhile, across town, Keanu was sitting at a small wooden table in the motel's tiny backyard. Birds chirped nearby and the air smelled like old roses. The owner, Mrs. Ramona, brought him coffee and biscuits. "You sleep well, darling?" she asked with a warm smile. "Better than I have in years," Keanu replied. He watched as she fussed over her garden. The motel was small, but it felt alive. No velvet ropes or grand chandeliers. Just honesty, just kindness. She looked over her shoulder and asked gently, "You going back to that fancy hotel today?" Keanu sipped his coffee. "They offered the penthouse, but I think this place has better stars." She chuckled. "You're a funny one." Not far from the motel, a young journalist named Emily stood in front of a camera crew. She had followed the viral storm and wanted to do something different. She didn't want drama. She wanted truth. "Cut the gossip," she told her cameraman. Let's find out what kind of person Keanu really is. No angles, no spin. She headed to the motel, unsure if he would talk to her. She knocked on the front door just as Keanu was helping Mrs. Ramona fix the broken fence. When he opened the gate, she looked surprised. Hi, I'm Emily. I'm with CTN News. May I speak with you? Keanu looked at her gently. Only if we're not doing it for clicks. I want the truth, she said. I think people deserve that. He nodded. Then come in. You can help us paint this fence while we talk. Emily hesitated for a second, then rolled up her sleeves. The next hour was unlike any interview she had ever done. No suits, no microphones, just a brush, a wooden fence, and a man who was nothing like the rumors. He didn't talk about fame. He talked about his sister's illness, the nurse who changed her sheets every day without asking for thanks, the time he met a mechanic who fixed his car for free just because he smiled. I've been called many things, he said quietly, but the only thing that matters is how you make someone feel when no one's watching. Emily blinked hard. Her voice cracked as she asked, Why didn't you tell them who you were at the hotel? He shrugged. Would it have made them treat me better? She didn't answer. That evening, Emily posted the interview clip on her channel. Not a dramatic title, just a soft one. The Man Behind the Kindness. It showed Keanu painting the fence, laughing with Mrs. Ramona, and talking about the beauty of everyday moments. Within hours, it went viral. Not because of rage, not because of gossip, but because people felt something real. Meanwhile, back at the Grand Reserve, things were unraveling fast. The hotel's owner, a sharp-eyed woman named Marissa Chen, arrived unannounced. She walked into the manager's office without knocking. Saw the footage, she said coldly. You turned away a guest based on how he looked. You turned away Keanu Reeves. Do you know how many years it took me to build this brand? The manager stood, trying to defend himself. I didn't. No. He didn't look like what? She snapped. Like someone who deserves basic respect? His mouth opened, but no words came. She placed a folder on his desk. Pack your things. We're replacing you. News spread through the hotel like wildfire, staff whispered. Some clapped quietly. And then Marissa did something no one expected. She called for a town hall meeting with all employees. She stood in the middle of the lobby, surrounded by waiters, housekeepers, desk clerks, and managers from every department. We messed up, she said, not because we lost a celebrity guest, but because we forgot what hospitality really means. If anyone here thinks uniforms and marble floors matter more than kindness, this isn't the place for you. There was silence. Then one housekeeper slowly clapped. Others joined. It wasn't applause for punishment. It was for hope. Later that night, Marissa personally visited the motel. She didn't come in a limo. She drove her own car and knocked on the same little gate. Keanu answered, wiping grease from his hands. You must be Marissa. She nodded. I'm sorry. He looked at her, eyes calm but kind. Apology accepted, but I'm staying here for now. She looked around at the flowers, the flickering light, the quiet peace. I understand, but I'd still like to ask something. He raised a brow. Would you be willing to speak to our staff? Share what you believe hospitality is really about? He paused, then said softly, I'll come. Not as a lesson, just as a guest. 2 days later, Keanu walked back into the Grand Reserve Hotel. This time, through the front doors. This time, no one stopped him. Staff lined the hallways. Not because they were ordered to, but because they wanted to. He didn't speak from a stage. He sat on a chair, the same height as everyone else, and told them about the first time he ever stayed in a hotel. He was broke, unknown, traveling across states for a role he wasn't even sure he'd get. A woman at a small lodge, he said, offered me soup because she said I looked tired. I never forgot that, because in that moment she gave me more than food. She gave me dignity. And as he looked around the room, every person felt something shift. This hotel, Keanu continued, can be great, but only if it remembers who It's really 4. People clapped. Some cried. Keanu didn't stay long. He shook hands, thanked everyone, and walked back to the motel where Mrs. Ramona had just baked fresh bread. When he sat down for dinner, she looked at him and smiled. You change people without trying, don't you? He smiled back. I just remind them who they are. But what neither of them knew was that something else was coming. Something that would test everything even further. A new guest was on the way to the motel. One who would bring a challenge no one could see coming. A new guest with a hidden agenda. The sky above the city turned gray that afternoon. A soft drizzle began to fall, tapping against windows and rooftops. Inside the little motel, everything remained warm and peaceful. Keanu sat by the window reading a paperback book. Mrs. Ramona hummed in the kitchen, the smell of baked cinnamon rolls drifting through the air. A knock came at the front desk, just as the clock struck 4. Mrs. Ramona wiped her hands on her apron and opened the door. A tall man in a black trench coat stepped inside, water dripping from his coat onto the floor. He had sharp eyes and a cold smile. Behind him rolled a large silver suitcase. Good evening, he said in a calm but clipped tone. Do you have any available rooms? We do, Mrs. Ramona said kindly. We're not as fancy as the big hotels, but we have warmth. The man didn't smile. I don't need warmth, just quiet. Keanu glanced up from his book, sensing something strange in the air. He stood and walked toward the desk, casually observing the new guest. Room number 4, Mrs. Ramona said, handing the key. The man took it, nodded once, and headed silently toward the hallway. Later that night, Keanu noticed the man sitting outside under the covered patio, typing quickly on a laptop. His fingers moved like they were racing against time. His eyes barely blinked. Keanu approached gently. Evening, Keanu said. Rain's calming, isn't it? The man didn't look up. It's just weather. Keanu didn't push. He simply sat on the opposite bench, enjoying the silence. Sometimes people opened up. Sometimes they didn't. The man paused his typing. You're the guy from the news. Keanu tilted his head. Am I? The hotel, the man said. The rejection, the kindness, the viral redemption arc. Keanu gave a soft smile. If that's what people need to call it. The man finally looked up. You're not what I expected. No one ever is, Keanu replied. The man stared at him for a moment. Don't get too comfortable. People love building up heroes so they can watch them fall. Keanu's eyes didn't flinch. I'm not here to be anyone's hero. I'm just here to be real. The man returned to typing as if the conversation never happened. What no one at the motel knew was that the man wasn't just another traveler. His name was Elliot Kane. He was a media fixer, someone hired by powerful people to either clean up scandals or manufacture them. He was ruthless, efficient, and had one mission now: protect the reputation of the Grand Reserve Hotel by discrediting Keanu Reeves. Elliot's plan was simple: stay low, observe, and find something he could twist. One wrong word, one private comment. Anything to turn the tide. But the longer he stayed at the motel, the harder his job became. The next morning, he saw Keanu helping fix a broken sink in room 7. That afternoon, he watched him teach a kid how to balance on an old skateboard in the parking lot. And that evening, he overheard him reading stories to Mrs. Ramona's grandson who was visiting for the weekend. Every moment was genuine. Elliot grew frustrated. This wasn't the Keanu Reeves the media whispered about in smoky rooms. This wasn't a man with secrets to hide. He was inconveniently honest. He decided to test him. One night, as they both sat on the patio again, Elliot asked, "What if someone offered you $10 million to never speak of that hotel again?" Keanu laughed softly. "I've already forgotten about the hotel." Elliot pressed further. "Everyone has a price." Keanu turned to him, eyes steady. "You're confusing value with cost." Elliot went quiet. 2 days later, Elliot planted a small microphone in the corner of the lobby. He thought maybe he could catch Keanu complaining, Maybe something about the motel being old or the sheets not being soft enough. But instead he caught Keanu telling Mrs. Ramona, "This place reminds me of my mother's house. No luxury. Just love." Elliot grew angry. Not at Keanu, but at the world. How could someone so well-known live without ego? Where was the catch? Where was the flaw? So he made one. He took a photo of Keanu at the motel, edited it to make him look irritated, added a fake quote, and posted it from a burner account. Keanu Reeves calls motel a dusty dump. Says he misses real celebrity treatment. The post started to spread, but something happened. Elliot didn't expect. Within hours, dozens of people commented under it, defending Keanu. "I met him last year. He gave my kid his jacket. This post is fake. Look at his face in the pic. Someone edited this. Shame on you. This man slept on the floor in a hospital to comfort a stranger. Lies won't stick." Elliot's plan failed. Even more shocking. Someone tracked the burner account and exposed him. Screenshots, old tweets, client connections. It all came out. By midnight, his name was trending. For all the wrong reasons. The next morning, he came, down to the motel lobby defeated. His bags were packed. Keanu sat at the front table with tea and toast. "Leaving?" Keanu asked calmly. Elliot looked embarrassed. "I tried to ruin you." Keanu nodded. "I know." Elliot looked confused. "Then why are you being kind?" "Because I've been where you are," Keanu said. "Angry, tired, trying to control everything. But when you stop fighting the world, you find peace." Elliot sat down slowly. "Why didn't you call me out? Why didn't you shame me online?" Keanu smiled. "Because sometimes the best way to win is not to play." Mrs. Ramona came by with a cup of coffee for Elliot. No judgment in her eyes, just warmth. Elliot didn't know what to say. His plan had failed. But in a strange way, something inside him had cracked open. Not in a painful way, but like a window letting in light for the first time. He stayed another night, and another. Then, one morning he offered to repaint the motel sign. "It's faded," he said. "You deserve better." Keanu helped him, and slowly the man who came to destroy began to rebuild something inside himself. Word of all this reached Marissa Chen, the owner of the Grand Reserve Hotel. She watched everything unfold online. Keanu's quiet dignity, Elliot's fall and surprising redemption, the motel becoming a symbol of something purer than any five-star suite. So she made a decision. She shut the hotel for one day. Not for maintenance, but for learning. She invited Mrs. Ramona and Keanu to speak to the staff again. Not to scold them, not to preach, but to remind them why they started in hospitality in the first place. Keanu stood once more in that grand lobby. This time, not as a rejected guest, but as someone deeply respected. "Kindness," he said simply, "doesn't ask who you are. It simply shows up." And just like that, people started seeing hotels and people differently. But the journey wasn't over yet. Someone else had seen the story, someone who held even more power, and they were on their way to meet Keanu in person. A stranger with a suitcase and a secret. The motel had never seen a day so bright. Birds circled overhead. Flowers along the cracked sidewalk bloomed with sudden color. Even the old motel sign, freshly painted by Elliot and Keanu, gleamed in the sunlight like a badge of quiet honor. Inside, guests moved peacefully. An older couple checked out with smiles. A single mom and her daughter laughed over a spilled bowl of cereal. In the back garden, Keanu repaired a broken bench beside Mrs. Ramona, who was sipping her tea and reading the newspaper aloud. "Listen to this," she chuckled. "A famous singer says this motel should be protected as a historical site of kindness." Keanu laughed. "Don't let it go to your head, Mrs. Ramona. I'm already planning a souvenir shop," she teased. But by midday, everything changed. Black luxury car rolled up the street clean and quiet. It didn't belong. It was the kind of car you only saw in movies or behind velvet ropes. When the door opened, A man stepped out in a designer coat carrying a sleek leather suitcase. He wore sunglasses and carried himself like someone who didn't need to say his name. Elliot, standing near the front porch, frowned immediately. "Trouble," he whispered. Keanu looked up from the bench, calm but alert. The man walked to the front desk, took off his glasses, and looked directly at Mrs. Ramona. "I'd like a room," he said in a clipped tone. "No cameras. No press. Full privacy." Mrs. Ramona didn't blink. "We have room 8. The man paid in cash, more than she asked for. Then he looked around the lobby. His eyes landed on Keanu. He didn't show surprise. Instead, he smiled slightly. "Fancy seeing you here," the man said. Keanu stood slowly. "You know me? We've met once. You probably don't remember." Elliot moved closer, uneasy. "Who are you?" "I'm Vincent," the man said. "Vincent Hale." Elliot's expression changed. Even Keanu looked more alert now. Vincent Hale was the CEO of Hale & Sons Global, a billion-dollar real estate firm known for luxury hotels, corporate takeovers, and ruthless business strategies. The kind of man who crushed places like Mrs. Ramona's motel under development deals and legal pressure. Vincent nodded toward the backyard. "Can we talk privately, Mr. Reeves?" Mrs. Ramona looked nervous. Keanu gave her a gentle glance. "It's all right," he said. "I'll be back in a few." They walked to the side garden where trees rustled and the hum of the city grew distant. Vincent sat on the edge of the bench. "You made a lot of noise without even trying." "I wasn't trying," Keanu said. "That's what makes it dangerous," Vincent replied. "One small motel, one quiet man, and suddenly people are questioning everything, luxury, fame, what matters." Keanu tilted his head. "And what do you want, Vincent?" Vincent opened his suitcase. Inside were documents, thick folders, sleek, brochures and architectural drawings. "I'm offering Mrs. Ramona $10 million to sell. I'll build a modern hotel here, 5-star. Same name, new legacy." Keanu didn't blink. "You're not here to offer, you're here to erase." Vincent's jaw tightened. "You're romanticizing old wood and kindness. But we live in a world of margins, scale, power." Keanu stood up. "You know what scares people like you?" Vincent looked up. "That someone might choose love over profit," Keanu said. "That someone might feel more at home on a cracked porch than in a penthouse suite." Vincent's face hardened. "You think this little motel can fight me?" "It doesn't have to," Keanu said softly. "It just has to keep being what it is." Vincent stood slowly. "We'll see." They returned to the front desk where Mrs. Ramona stood waiting, nervous. Vincent placed the contract in front of her. "Sign this," he said. "Change your life." Mrs. Ramona's hands trembled as she picked it up. Her eyes scanned the numbers. It was enough to change everything. Her debt, her grandson's future, even her health bills. She looked at Keanu. "What should I do?" Keanu didn't answer. He simply said, "Do what you feel is right, not what feels easy." Silence hung heavy. Then Mrs. Ramona did something no one expected. She tore the contract in half. Vincent didn't flinch, but his eyes darkened. "You can't buy what we have here," she said, "and I won't be the one who sells it away." Vincent left without another word. But something strange happened that night. When Mrs. Ramona went to bed, the power went out, not just in her room but across the entire motel. The phones went dead. Even the water pressure dropped. Elliot checked the lines. "Cut intentionally," he said. "This isn't an accident." Keanu stood at the front gate staring into the dark street. Someone didn't like losing, but instead of panicking, they lit candles. They offered flashlights to guests. Keanu used his own jacket to cover a shivering child while the staff passed out warm tea. No one complained. In fact, many smiled. "This place," one guest said, "feels more like home in a blackout than any hotel at full power." The next morning, 2 repair vans arrived, sent anonymously. They fixed the lines, the generator, the water. When Mrs. Ramona asked who paid. No one had answers, but Keanu suspected. Vincent hadn't given up. He was just watching, and he wasn't done yet. A week passed quietly. Elliot stayed on, helping organize the motel's bookings, updating its website, even filming a mini-documentary with Emily the reporter. Guests kept arriving, people from other cities, even other countries. One evening, a woman with tears in her eyes hugged Mrs. Ramona and whispered, "I saw the story online. I just needed to be near something good." But as good as things felt, something darker was brewing behind the scenes. Vincent filed a city complaint. He claimed the motel violated zoning codes, had outdated wiring, and was a hazard to public safety. Within days, a letter arrived. A government inspection was scheduled. If the property failed, it could be shut down permanently. Mrs. Ramona nearly collapsed. I can't lose this place." Keanu caught her before she fell. "You won't," he said. Elliot, now fully loyal, said, "He's trying to bury you in rules. But I've seen this before. We can fight." The next 2 days became a race. Electricians came. Volunteers showed up with paint and tools. Even previous guests returned, offering to help. Keanu led the charge, installing alarms, fixing the plumbing, upgrading the fire system. The community rallied like a heartbeat pulsing in unison. On the morning of the inspection, the motel sparkled, but no one relaxed. A black city car pulled up. 3 officials stepped out, clipboards in hand. Vincent stood nearby, arms folded, watching everything. Keanu greeted the inspectors calmly. "Welcome." The inspection began, room by room, meter by meter. Hours passed. Then, the lead inspector paused in the lobby. She glanced around. "This place feels different." "It's not just a business," Keanu said. "It's a place where people are treated like people." She looked at her clipboard and smiled. "You passed," she said. With flying colors. Vincent said nothing. He turned and left, disappearing into his car. But Keanu knew something. This wasn't over. Not yet. As guests cheered, Mrs. Ramona cried quietly. Keanu hugged her. But far away in a tall building with glass windows, Vincent made a call. "We're doing this the hard way," he said into the phone. "Bring everything." Something was coming. And this time, it wouldn't just test the motel. It would test Keanu's very soul. The fight for more than a building nightfall settled over the motel like a warm blanket. Candles glowed in windows. Laughter echoed from the back garden, where Keanu was helping Mrs. Ramona's grandson build a small birdhouse. Guests sipped tea on the porch. The air buzzed not with fear, but with peace. But far across the city, a different energy stirred. In a towering glass office, Vincent Hale stood in front of a giant screen, watching live security footage from the motel's public areas. He wasn't spying. The feed came from news drones and publicly available live streams. Dozens of bloggers had picked up the story. People were watching from all over the world, and it drove Vincent mad. "They've turned a rundown shack into a movement," he muttered. "This ends now." He called in a team of lawyers and media experts. "I want a court order to freeze the property," he said. "We'll say it's for public safety." "On what grounds?" one lawyer asked. Vincent smirked. "They had a blackout. We'll build the rest." The next morning, a loud knock shattered the motel's calm. A man in a gray suit stood at the front door with a court order. "This property is under immediate legal review," he said. "Operations must stop. Guests must leave within 24 hours. Mrs. Ramona's hands trembled as she read the notice. "This can't be real." Keanu stepped beside her. He scanned the paper, then looked the officer in the eye. "We'll respond. Properly, legally." The man nodded and left. The motel was stunned. Guests began to pack. Some cried, others offered to stay and protest. But fear had returned like a shadow. Elliot slammed a fist on the counter. "He's not just trying to win. He's trying to erase every trace of you." Emily, the reporter, arrived within the hour. "We're going live," she said, "right now." Keanu stepped in front of the camera. No stage, no script. "I'm not here to fight a billionaire," he said. "I'm here to protect a woman's life's work. A place that welcomes people when no one else will. A place where value isn't measured in stars but in smiles." The live stream spread like wildfire. By evening, over 2 million people had watched it. People from across the country posted messages of support. Former guests began to tell their stories, how the motel saved them from cold nights, broken hearts, lonely mornings. Someone even started a petition. Protect Ramona's place. Within hours, it had 50,000 signatures. But Vincent had influence. The next day, a hearing was scheduled in court. Fast-tracked, dangerous. Mrs. Ramona sat in the back of the motel that night, holding a photo of her late husband. "We built this together," she whispered. "He laid every brick. How can they take it away?" Keanu knelt beside her. "They can't take what it means." She shook her head. "But they can take my roof. My home." Keanu was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I have one more idea, but it's a risk." The next morning, dressed in a simple black suit, Keanu walked into a courtroom filled with suits, cameras, and tense whispers. Mrs. Ramona sat beside him, clutching a worn leather purse. Emily and Elliot sat behind them. On the other side, Vincent waited, confident and calm. The judge entered. The case began. Vincent's lawyer went first. "This property has a history of violations. It had a blackout. It lacks proper emergency systems. It's unsafe. Mr. Hale has offered a modern alternative, fully compliant, luxurious, and beneficial to the city's economy." Then it was Keanu's turn. He didn't rise right away. When he did, he walked slowly to the center of the room. No notes, no papers. "Your Honor," he began, "I am not a lawyer. I'm not a businessman, but I know the difference between a place and a home." He pointed to Mrs. Ramona. "She doesn't own a motel. She owns moments, like the time she fed a runaway boy, or when she let a stranger pay 2 weeks late because he had just lost his job." He paused. "This place isn't unsafe. It's unfamiliar. It doesn't fit the blueprint of greed, but it fits the human heart." Vincent smirked. "Emotions don't win court cases." Keanu turned to the judge. "Maybe not, but truth should." Then he opened his briefcase. Inside were hundreds of letters, handwritten, printed, and emailed. Stories from people all over the world who had stayed at the motel. People who had found shelter, hope, and healing there. He handed them to the court clerk. The judge took her time reading. The room went silent. After what felt like an hour, the judge looked up. "I've read enough," she said. "Mr. Hale, you are a respected developer, but respect is not the same as right." Vincent frowned. "This court rules in favor of Mrs. Ramona. The motel will remain. All charges are dismissed." The room erupted. People clapped. Mrs. Ramona wept. Keanu closed his eyes, not in pride, but in peace. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Keanu raised a hand. "This win isn't mine. It's hers, and yours, and everyone who believes kindness is more than a memory." But the story didn't end there. 3 days later, a man arrived at the motel. He was tall, elderly, dressed in a brown sweater and walking with a cane. He stood quietly in the lobby until Keanu noticed him. "May I help you?" Keanu asked. The man smiled. "You already did years ago." Keanu looked closer, then blinked. "You're..." The man nodded. "I'm Harold Levinson, owner of the Heritage Society Foundation. We protect places with meaning." He opened a small black folder. "We would like to register this motel as a protected cultural site. You'll receive government support, historical status, and funding to restore it, not change it." Keanu looked at Mrs. Ramona. She was speechless. "We also," Harold continued, "would like to name a new award after you. For public kindness." She covered her mouth in shock, and that night the motel threw a celebration. Neighbors came. Former guests returned. Musicians played. Someone brought a cake with hand-painted words. Home isn't a place, it's a feeling. Keanu stood on the porch watching it all. Vincent was gone. The lawyers were gone. But what remained was stronger than steel or money, hope. And just as Keanu turned to go inside, he received a message on his phone. From Vincent. One sentence. "You may have won, but you changed me." Keanu smiled. Sometimes the biggest victories were the quiet ones, but there was still one surprise left. A visitor no one expected, a moment that would bring everything full circle. The final knock on the door. Morning broke over the city with golden light spilling between trees and rooftops. The motel stood quiet but alive, a place reborn. Birds sang from the garden fence. Wind chimes whispered near the door, and the sound of laughter drifted from the kitchen where Mrs. Ramona prepared her famous pancakes. Keanu Reeves sat at his usual spot on the porch, sipping tea. Elliot and Emily were discussing ideas for a short film about the motel. The lawsuit was behind them. The media storm had calmed, and something like peace had returned. "You know," Emily said, tapping her notebook, "the world needs more stories like this." Keanu smiled. "Then tell them. Make sure they see the people, not just the headlines." "We could even start a series," Elliot added. "Kindness across America. First stop, here." But just as he said it, a knock came at the door. 3 soft knocks, Mrs. Ramona answered. Standing outside was a young man no more than 22, holding a duffel bag and looking down at his shoes. He wore a wrinkled hoodie, scuffed shoes, and had a worn expression, part fear, part hope. "Hi," he said quietly. I saw the videos. I've been sleeping on a bench for a few days. I didn't know where else to go." Mrs. Ramona didn't hesitate. "Come in, sweetheart." The young man looked up, startled. "But I don't have money. I just need a safe place for a night. I'll leave in the morning." "We don't charge for safety," she replied gently. "We just ask you take off your shoes if they're muddy." Keanu stepped forward. "You hungry?" The young man nodded. "Then, you're family now," he said. And just like that, another life was changed. The boy's name was Tyler. He had aged out of foster care last year. No family, no guidance, no home. He had drifted from shelter to shelter until he found a story online about a motel where kindness still lived. As days passed, Tyler stayed, not just in a room, but in people's hearts. Elliot taught him how to manage a booking system. Emily helped him write a short blog about his journey. And Keanu taught him how to believe again. One night they sat under the stars, sharing stories. Tyler finally asked the question that had been burning inside. "Why do you stay here, Mr. Reeves? You could be anywhere in the world." Keanu looked at him with kind eyes. "Because here I'm not a movie star, I'm just a man. And that's enough." Tyler nodded. "Thank you for seeing me." Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're not invisible, Tyler. You're just not finished." Weeks passed. The motel became more than a place. It became a symbol. Donations flowed in. Volunteers arrived to paint, clean, and fix. People started writing letters, sending food, even offering free services. And one morning, Marissa Chen, the owner of the Grand Reserve Hotel, came to visit. She stood humbly at the gate, holding a basket of pastries. Keanu greeted her. "Surprised to see you." "I was wrong," she admitted. "We had everything, but we gave nothing. This place reminded me why I started." She looked around. "I want to be better. To rebuild our hotel with a heart." Mrs. Ramona walked up, smiled, and handed her a broom. "Well then, grab this. We have cobwebs in the back." Marissa blinked, then laughed. "Yes, ma'am." And, just like that, something new was born. A partnership, a promise. The Grand Reserve began hiring differently, looking for empathy, not just experience. They set up programs to house those in transition, and they renamed their top suite, the Ramona Room. One night, near the end of summer, the motel held a celebration. Paper lanterns floated into the sky. A local band played under the stars. Guests danced on the grass. Even Vincent Hale sent a handwritten note that read, "I built towers. You built people. You win." As the music faded, Keanu stood alone at the edge of the garden. Mrs. Ramona joined him. You know, she said, this all started because someone turned you away. Keanu nodded. And it became something beautiful. She smiled. Funny how pain can open doors. He looked at her. So can love. Just then, another knock came at the door. It was late. No one expected it. Mrs. Ramona opened it to find a man holding flowers. Hi, he said awkwardly. My name's Andrew. I don't need a room, I made a mistake years ago. I was a hotel manager. I turned someone away. I think it was you. Keanu stepped forward. It was him, the same man who first sent him away. But now he looked older, tired, regretful. I lost my job, my friends. I've been trying to understand where I went wrong. Keanu didn't say anything right away. Then he opened the gate. Come in, he said softly. You mean, you forgive me? Andrew asked. Keanu nodded. Kindness starts when someone lets you try again. And so the final thread of the story was tied, not with revenge, but redemption. And as the lanterns floated higher that night, lighting up the stars, the little motel stood quiet but strong. Proof that one moment of kindness can ripple through the world, changing hearts, rewriting stories, and reminding us that home isn't made of walls, it's made of people who see you.